And your guiding light. Totally reliable. Totally resourceful. Rush Limbaugh and the EIB network. This is Mary in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Hi.
Hi. I am so excited to talk to you, and I only have a few minutes. You are dead on about the militants, and they hate Scott Walker.
Oh, they do.
Oh, yes, they do.
They despise Scott Walker before he humiliated them by beating him. Now it's but they hate everybody, Mary.
Yes,
I mean it's irrational. It is. I've never understood. I'm going to be out front here. I've never understood something. Okay, so you've got take the XYZ widget company, and the XYZ widget company wants to sell this to that group of people. Whatever it is. And it happens to be a majority of people like what the XYZ widget company makes. And then all of a sudden, here comes some complaint emails or letters from some group, or actually from an individual. And then tens of thousands of them come in. And the XYZ widget company gets panicked. Oh, my God, we've got to change. This customer. And you explain to the XYZ widget company, no, it's not tens of thousands of people. It's 10 or 12 people that are fake generating all of these tweets and emails. They don't even live in town where your business is. And they're just doing this because they want to harm you. They don't like your product, or they don't like your politics. They don't like who you support or whatever. Why would you even care about trying to appease? You've got your customer base over here, which is doing great guns, and your business doing great guns, and all of a sudden you're going to be afraid of a bunch of frauds. But they are. McDonald's demonstrates how this works. I think McDonald's fell prey to the notion that these 10 or 12 people actually were 500,000 people. And why else would you get rid of the beef tallow in your French fries? And a bunch of health Nazis come along, tell you they're never going to shop at McDonald's and they're never going to eat there anymore because you're poisoning kids and you're poisoning the planet, you're destroying the planet. Beef tallow comes from beef, cattle farts, methane, whatever, destroying the planet. I understand businesses don't want any complaint. Sometimes they'll try to appease. It's a natural human behavior or emotion. But when you can demonstrate to them that it's a fraudulent campaign, which can now be demonstrated, why the appeasement goes on is beyond me. But it does work, and it's plain as day that these militants are trying to harm the business, not help it. The beef tallow thing with McDonald's, and I don't mean to harp on McDonald's, but it's just a recent example because the CEO just ended up being let go because the stock prices plummeted. And I know why. They tried to appease a bunch of people that aren't customers to begin with. The people that made them think that they'd start eating McDonald's if they took the beef tallow out of the fries. They were never going to eat there because they're vegans. And the way to answer to that is don't put vegan menu items on the menu. That isn't going to work. So this is how this process all works. But the point of it is that these so-called complaints coming from so-called customers are really no more than efforts on the part of several leftists or anti-capitalists that are trying to destroy these businesses that they target. Be they big corporations or small businesses, it doesn't matter. They're actually trying to destroy them. For one reason or another, maybe the business raises money for Republicans. Maybe the business donates to Republicans. And the militants don't like the fact that the Citizens United case made it possible. So they go out and they intimidate them. So they don't donate to Republicans anymore. Everything is politics. And yet these complaints are looked at as legitimate complaints from legitimate customers. They're not. They're totally fraudulent, made up, fake generated by a bunch of people who have figured out the process. And they hide. They will not make themselves known. They will not make themselves public. They hide behind fake names, fake algorithms, and all kinds of other things. And you can have the data that proves this, and you can take it to people and show it. And sometimes it's just impossible to convince them. So powerful is the complaint message. But that's who they are, and that's how they operate, and that's what their modus operandi is, and that's what their purpose. And it's right out in the open. I mean, the left, the Democrat Party, look at its enemies list. Look who they hate. Look at they're always ragging on. Big oil, big pharmaceutical, big retail, big whatever. And if you synthesize it down and boil it down even further, they're just anti-capitalist. It's pure and simple. And they just need to be stood up to. Standing up to them, and they'll go away. Maybe not at first, and they'll ratchet it up and try to really frighten you. They may even engage in faux vandalism and this kind of thing. I mean, it's brutal. There's no question that it's brutal. But the point is, none of it's legitimate. Sure, there are going to be complaints coming in every day. Every business is going to get a complaint letter here, a complaint letter there. But these organized campaigns of tens of thousands, or even just plain old thousands, they're orchestrated. They're not legitimate. Anyway, I mentioned earlier that Josh Earnest said that Obama had done change his mind on vaccinations. See, this is another great example for this vaccination thing. This is totally fraudulent. A manufactured issue, just like contraception was a manufactured issue, which led to the war on women. We have a vaccination problem for one reason: Barack Hussein and his open borders immigration policy, which opened the southern borders to children, sick, healthy, you name it, poor, ill-educated. Just tens of thousands of kids flooded the southern border all of last year. They were never examined before they got here. They were never examined after they got here and quarantined if they had a disease. They were just sent out across the country. Many of them had measles, a disease the United States officially announced as having been eradicated in 2000. We now have an outbreak of it, all because of our immigration policy. And in all this talk about vaccinations and who's opposed to them and who's in favor of them and who's stopping them, not one story talks about why we're even dealing with it. If it weren't for the Democrat Party and its beliefs about immigration, we wouldn't have an outbreak of measles in the United States of America. It's that simple. That's why it's not mentioned, because the Democrat Party is not going to be impugned. The whole point of this is to embarrass, intimidate the Republican Party and get them scared and frightened and do anything to avoid being called mean-spirited or extremist or anti-whatever on this vaccination policy. But the truth of the matter is that if you go back to 2008, Obama and Hillary running for president both expressed grave suspicions of vaccinations. Grave suspicion. You know why? Well, because somebody had started a rumor back then that all these vaccinations were the reason for autism. Yes, never anybody proved it. Never one shred of proof, scientific or otherwise, never one link from vaccinations to autism. Yet everybody, not everybody, vast majority of people believed it. Successful rumor, planted and grown, it populated, people believed it to this day. Back then, Mrs. Clinton, Barack Hussein, they were not in favor of mass vaccination because of that very reason. And this has been made public today. People have gone back, found the hypocritical words of Obama and Hillary in 2008, compared them to today. And so the White House press secretary asked about this. Josh Earnest, a CNN reporter, Michelle Kaczynski, said to Josh Earnest on vaccines, it was 2008, the president said that the science was inconclusive. So the difference now, does he believe something has changed in the research that would make that not the case?
At the time that the president was speaking, there was a study that has since been debunked that indicated that there might be some connection between autism, increasing rates of autism, and vaccines. But like I said, since that time, I believe this was in 2010, that study was retracted because it was completely undermined based on additional scientific data that had been presented. So in the mind of the president, this is an issue that science has settled, and that it is clearly the responsibility of parents all across the country to get their kids vaccinated for the measles.
Yeah, so see, when it was convenient for Obama to oppose massive vaccines, there was this mythical, non-existent link to autism that he and Hillary both cited. But now, after he got elected 2 years later, guess what? The link has been debunked. Yes, there was never a link to it. Yeah, it was always wrong. And so Obama has evolved, just as he has evolved on gay marriage. And now Obama's right, and the Republicans are wrong. See how this works? Just like gay marriage. Obama's evolved. A fake premise in 2008 has now been debunked. The fake premise was that vaccines cause autism. Again, nobody's ever proved it. You might believe it. I'm not trying to talk you out. I'm just trying to give you facts. You can think of it whatever you wish. But I'm telling you, there's no scientific link to vaccines causing autism. You might believe it till the day you die. God bless you. But Obama used it so that he could stand with voters who were opposed to massive government vaccination orders. He wanted your votes then. Now he wants to control. He doesn't care about your votes anymore. So guess what? The fake assumption has been debunked by a fake study, allowing Obama and Hillary to change their minds. Reporter said, back on vaccines. Al Jazeera reported, back on vaccines, Josh, baby. It's been reported people have gone through the budget and they found this so-called 317 program on immunizations has been cut. This is one we told you about earlier, that Obama's even cutting $50 million from the vaccine program. If the president believes that everybody should get vaccinated, why would he cut the program, Josh, old buddy, old pal?
The reason is that we can take away funding for that program because of the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act actually guarantees that every citizen in this country has access to free preventative.
Stop the tape. Why didn't I think of that? I didn't even have to play the soundbite. Yes, we can cut funding for the vaccination program because Obamacare has taken care of it. They think of everything at the regime, don't they? And I've mentioned over the course of many years of the broadcast that there are people who... the problem they have with me is that I'm too sure of myself, and that makes them uncomfortable. They don't think anybody's that sure of themselves, and they certainly aren't. And I come along, and I'm dead certain of everything, and that makes them nervous. I just got an email from you. What? You just sound like you know that. And I do. And I'm going to tell you how, folks. It's real simple. What is the phrase when they always resort to it? It's global warming, a consensus of scientists. That means it's not debatable. It is inarguable. So whenever you see the phrase, a consensus of scientists agrees, you're being lied to, folks, because there's no such thing as a consensus in science. If science is up for a vote, it isn't science. Another term is settled science. You just heard Josh Earnest, settled science, 2010, debunked this theory that there's no autism linked to vaccines. Oh, it's settled science, is it? Yeah, and that means you can't argue with them anymore. That means you're wrong. All it means is they're lying to you. You just have to learn to recognize the tells. It's really easy. Liberalism mostly is a lie. But that's how. And that wraps it up for another excursion into broadcast excellence. Not only, look, when you hear consensus of scientists or settled science, it's not just that they're lying, which they are. It also means that's how they shut down debate. They don't want to argue. There's no debate. They just want to shut you up. Never forget that. That's how you spot them, folks. Plain as day. See you tomorrow. Adios.